happy Sunday. And I know it's only been a month, but I'll tell you, so much has transpired in the last month. It feels like I haven't been here in almost a year. I've been keeping very, very busy. As a matter of fact, Reverend Mazi, I need to send you newer copies of Inspiration in Small Doses because it's been republished and updated.
Okay.
And so that was released in August of this year. So I'll get, it's got a new look, got some reviews in there, and
All right.
a new forward, and more current. So what is my talk today? My talk today is about failing forward. And you're probably wondering, because I come up with these titles, dancing with donkeys and failing forward and things of that nature. What in the world could Reverend Michele be talking about? So in many instances, failure is a given. But what we do with the experience of failure says a lot about us. Oftentimes we find success through our failures. So I'm going to open with that. Our work, so think in terms of what it is that you do, the contribution that you make to society and to the world for which you're compensated. Or you have done the work, you're retired, and so you're still receiving compensation or residuals from the work that you've done in the past. It's our way of expressing our God selves in only the way that we can. And so when we work, and our work really is a work of love, our work is really something that we're passionate about, then we actually are glorifying God. So in the professional lexicon, words such as success, failure, productivity, metrics, continuous improvement, efficiency, and effectiveness are measurements, are ways in which we evaluate how successful or unsuccessful we are. However, we are spiritual beings living out a spiritual experience in the world of work. So that's a little bit different shift. In our thinking, we are spiritual beings wherever we go and regardless of what it is that we are doing. And when I say spiritual, I mean that we understand and recognize our oneness with the divine. And so everything that we do, when we endeavor to do our best, we are in keeping with our God-given gifts and talents. And what I know is when we remember this, spiritual beings expressing ourselves spiritually in the world, then we know that what it is that we do is more than just a result or a goal or an objective. Rather, there are other spiritual elements that we are tapping into, such as giving our lives meaning, living our lives on purpose. So here's an invitation for you to embark upon an adventure, you all, in the spiritual practice of finding the passion in the work that you do, even when you fail. Our unique perspective as metaphysicians finds its origins in all of the lessons that life has taught us. So one of the things that I want to bring to your attention, the song that Donnie just sang for us is, he talked a lot about sinners. Saints are just sinners who got up, right? And they started all over again. I want you to know, metaphysically speaking, sin and sinners, those are terms, archery terms. And to sin really means to just miss the mark. Now, some people might say, oh, that's just another way of saying failure. Yes, it is. So I just want you to understand, because in our philosophy, we don't believe that there's anything we have to atone for in the way of sin, that we weren't born as sinners. So I like to make that distinction. We do, in the conduct of our lives, miss the mark on many occasions. That's what makes us human. And we also have the opportunity in any and every moment to reposition ourselves and take another shot. So I want you to think in terms of what it is that you do, the work that you do or the work that you did. And think about all of the lessons that you have gleaned from your work, and especially all the lessons that you have gleaned from your seeming failures. What I have learned in my life experience is that my failures are actually my greatest teachers. When I do things well, there's not necessarily any growth that's coming from that. I'm not being stretched or challenged in any way. I'm deploying the gifts that I already have, the knowledge that I already have appropriately and accurately. However, it's when I engage in so-called failures that I learn so much. If I'm open to looking for the message, looking for the lesson and the learning in that failure. If there is a reason for us to move, to grow, and to shift beyond where we currently are, then there may be the potential for the ongoing search for what is ours to do. What is my true purpose? What am I passionate about? Can I make a larger contribution to society than I'm currently making? So let me share with you a couple of quotes from Ernest Holmes that I think really speaks to this point. He says, many people wonder why they fail and why they continue to fail. Failure is not to be thought of as something outside of ourselves. A sense of failure is only the psychological and emotional reaction that we experience, and we determine that they are negative. And the reason why I say that, and then those are my words, he said we decide are negative. The reason I changed the word somewhat is because what I know is every experience is just neutral. It's really our perspective, our interpretation of every experience, our labeling, our evaluating, our judgment of each experience. And we come up with terms like good and bad, failure and success. It's just an experience. Failure does not mean the loss of something. Failure occurs only if the loss of that thing, listen to this one, takes our enthusiasm, our courage, our zest for life, our faith, conviction, or happiness. When it takes those things away from us, that is failure indeed. And those two quotes come from The Power of an Idea by Ernest Holmes. So I'm going to talk on 3 levels about seeming failure. We all experience success in life from time to time, and some more than others. And we also experience failure in life. And just as life teaches the lessons not to allow success to go to our head, we are wise not to allow failures to consume our hearts. Know that often things will not go as we have planned, and that's perfectly fine. Because again, spiritual beings recognizing that we are having spiritual experiences, we understand that there is a divine plan unfolding that we just have not had an opportunity to yet glimpse. The wise understands how to fail forward, which means not giving up when things don't work out. When failure seems inevitable, the secret to moving forward is cultivating a sense of resilience. And resilience is having the ability to bounce back from a setback. And the more you value the lessons learned from your seeming failures, the more resilient you become and the faster you bounce back. The truth about failure is that It does not mean that your idea was flawed, invalid, or that your dream wasn't big enough. Failure means simply that there is something that needs to be learned, something that needs to be gained, or some course correction is necessary. Failure points to the possibility that there is always something more, something better, something blessed ahead. So, have you ever considered that failure is an opportunity that shows up just at the right moment? It can be a chance to reevaluate what it is that you're doing and come back stronger, more fortified with better reasoning and logic. Often, the next time around, it's easier to attain the goals that you have set for yourself. The challenge, however, with our work is that there are millions of opportunities for us to fail abundantly and to fail publicly. How one bounces back is what's significant. One way to get to know the parts and the pieces of failure and to allow each part to teach you what it is you are to learn from the experience is that you begin to compartmentalize. You're able to separate your identity from the thing that didn't go right. You learn to detach from it. And what that does is it helps to keep your self-dignity intact, your self-confidence intact, because your identity is not wrapped up in the failure or the seeming failure. I'm here to remind you that failure is not fatal. No matter how challenging it may feel when you are having that experience, be willing to understand that it may simply mean that there really is another and better opportunity just over the horizon. So take the moment that you sense that you have not succeeded. Think about what else might be possible. Think about what the other potentialities might be. Sometimes the lesson of failure is not to make success certain, but to show us how to fail. There are ways to fail with grace. A single instance of a failure can teach more than a lifetime of success. I'm going to repeat that one. A single instance of failure can teach more than a lifetime of success. Why? Because our faith allows us to detach from the outcome and to explore with greater curiosity and trust as our spiritual evolution continues, as our learning process unfolds. Now, some of us are risk averse. We shy away from taking risks for fear of making a mistake, or worse, for fear of failing. But let me share something with you that you may not know, and this is a recent discovery for me. Do you know that every time you walk, you failed? Every time you walk, across the room, across the street, wherever you're going, you've actually failed. This is according to mathematical models and calculations. Each step that we take is actually a tiny fall. The random looking footfalls or steps are in reality a series of corrections that we're making. Therefore, we are resilient people in that we keep walking and we keep foot falling. So then we fail, but then we fall, and then we get up and we keep walking. But as we fall forward, we are making those corrections and we're catching ourselves again and again and again. There's a hidden element of resilience that accompanies falling and failing. Each failure offers feedback on how to perfect an idea, how to improve a plan, how to more efficiently complete a task. Our work is our willingness to continue to move forward even when things don't happen according to plan. Failure can show us the divine plan for our lives. It can show us the divine plan for every situation, including the work that is ours to do. Failure can make the distance between where we are and where we want to be so much more exciting. The willingness to fail forward can make work a beautiful, unpredictable, and exciting journey. So fail forward and fail forward often. I want to share a story with you because I think that athletes have really learned about failure. Those who are at the top of their game in whatever their game is. So this story is about the Olympics. So while competing in the Olympic marathon in Mexico City, Akwari cramped up. He was dehydrated, and the city's altitude was high. It was hot, and the air was thinner, making it more challenging for him to breathe. During the race, he fell, and he severely wounded his knee. He also dislocated his shoulder. But guess what? He got up, and he continued to run. He finished last amongst the 17 competitors who completed the race. There were 79 who started the race. He was one of the 17. By the time that he completed the race, there were only a few spectators who remained in the stadium after sunset. Akwari finished at 3 hours, 25 minutes, and 27 seconds. When he crossed the finish line, a roaring cheer came from the small crowd, who knew that somehow they were bearing witness to history. So later, when Akwari was interviewed and asked, "Why did you get up and run? You know you couldn't beat anybody. You lost the race." And this was his response. He's from Kenya. He said, "My country did not send me 5,000 miles to start the race. They sent me 5,000 miles to finish the race." So there is potentially more to gain from failure than there is to lose. Failing forward in your endeavors means that you're growing, you're industrious, you're willing to adapt, you're resilient, you're willing to bounce back, get up, and try again. So beloveds, go forward knowing success and failure, or they are akin to one another. The real work is determining what's next for me. So move beyond the stigma of failure into the wonder of possibility. No matter what, keep going and don't give up. And in the words of Robert F. Kennedy, only those who dare to fail greatly can ever achieve greatly. So what I want to do is I want to close out with a couple of quotes by Ernest Holmes. I'm going to share my screen. We have within us a power that is greater than anything we shall ever contact in the outer, a power that can overcome every obstacle in our life. And he's got a little book called Creative Mind and Success. Wonderful book, you all. And that quote comes from page 25. And then he also says, We are bound by nothing except belief. And so my question is, do you believe in yourself? Do you believe that you are supported by the universe in every situation, even in your seeming failures? So I remind you that success may come as a result of your having learned lessons from your seeming failures. And so it is. Amen.
And so it is. Wow. And so it is. Wow. Where do we begin with this one, Reverend Michele? It's like you were just talking to me.
So I'm
about me.
Curious, you all raise your hands if you ever heard that factual information about walking is really falling. Anybody ever heard that? I read that in some scientific studies I had to present a topic on, and the topic was certainty and doubt, believe it or not. And so they talked about our walking is really being failure, and we're making corrections every time we are moving forward, and we don't fall flat on our face. We're making those corrections. And so you've heard that before? Or did you have a question? Just open your mic and let us know. Let's see.
The thing that I think of when I think of failure is that failure is not an option. And I saw that when I visited the Space Center, when they would send up the rockets and send up the astronauts. Their idea from the outset was that failure is not an option.
But there's literally been many failures, right?
What did you say?
But they literally have failed on a number of counts. The Challenger, I mean, they say failure is not an option, but they did experience failure.
They experienced failure, but they turned it into something else.
A learning experience.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the next time around they could be successful. So they learned from that.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for your message.
Mm-hmm. You're welcome. Thank you for your comment.
Yeah.
Wow, food for thought. So I jot a question down and then you answer it later on in the presentation.
Okay.
Said, so my question was, how do you know when you fail, Mr. Mark? And he said, someone can tell you, so you actually have to know you failed.
Well, you always have to know what it is that you're trying to accomplish, what your purpose is, what your intentions are. And so if you engage in the effort and then that intention is not met, then you might deem that a failure.
Okay. And you said failure takes our zest away, our happiness, our joy in life. Because one of the reasons I would not do certain things because I don't want to fail because I attach it to me. But if it takes my joy, happiness, and zest, isn't that attaching it myself to the failure? So
let me approach it from this perspective. When it does do that, when it does do that, then you failed indeed, is what the quote said. But when you miss the mark and you self-correct, or you decide to go in a different direction, because the failure might be Spirit's way of saying, this is not yours to do. In our own minds, in our own personal will, we're thinking, oh, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. This is what I'm about. And then you go after it, you don't achieve it. If you recognize and you tap into your divinity and you sit and you listen in the silence, you might discern spiritually that this wasn't yours to do. And this was, and that's why I also said, have you ever seen that failure really could be an opportunity for you to reevaluate? Is this my head talking, my ego talking, or is this God's will for my life, for instance? So when you set your intention, you miss the mark, and if it squelches your desire to live, your enthusiasm, your happiness, then you have failed. Then you have failed. Because that's not affirming life. It's sucking the life out of you, literally. However, if you miss the mark and you recognize, I just missed the mark. Here's an opportunity for me to do something different or to improve upon what I've already done, then that seeming failure is really a gift.
Mm. So as I'm listening to you, I had a situation this morning. I spoke to my mom, and it didn't go the way I wanted it to go. It took my joy, happiness, some upset.
Mhm.
So I guess I failed. I didn't miss the mark. So how do you bounce back from that?
But it depends, Lavette, what was your intention? So that's your metrics. You have to have metrics to evaluate your outcome.
Okay, so before you attempt anything, you have to know what's your intent. That's
I think that's a good idea. Or guess what?
That's the guide.
It's always moving.
Don't just talk hot-headed. Know your purpose in life. Got it.
Yes, that's what I would offer. So, and you don't have to answer that here. That's a rhetorical question. But what was your intention? So if you met your intention, it wasn't a failure. But I won't say but. I'll say and if you didn't meet the intention and a little bit of life was sucked out of you, like you said, I'm no longer enthusiastic, I'm upset, then that would be deemed a failure.
Well, my intent was like informative, to inform you. This is why I act this way, just information just for you to see and know. But then it just went through. So.
However, did you inform her? Did you inform her? Were you able to communicate what you intended to communicate?
Yeah, but it wasn't received.
But that's a different subject. How she receives it,
about
her. That has nothing to do with you.
Okay, so I didn't fail.
You accomplished your goal of informing her.
I feel better. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So that's why you have to know what it is that you're doing and why you're doing it. So you need to have some kind of way to evaluate success or failure.
So it's not about the person or the other thing. It's really about you and your intent, and it doesn't matter how they received it.
Exactly. That's a different matter. So you were successful, my dear. All right.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I came in just at the time that I needed to come in, and I say thank you. Before I came here, I was with another community, and the topic of that community of that speech at that time was look for the good. So, I was drawn to that. So as soon as they finished, I came here, and what I heard from you helped to confirm what I had heard in that community. Now, for many of you, a year ago, just about a year ago, this is the 1st of October, I started on an adventure with a family that took me into the farthest of outer limits and the deepest of joy, the greatest of love, all of that. It's a year ago. And now I am at another space and place. And it comes to, and I'm bringing this around to your topic, Reverend Michele, about failure. When I started out that adventure, I saw long-term, 3, 5 years on down the way, and I saw all kinds of ways in which life would evolve. Hence, what, 8 months into this, 9 months in, I halt. And I am recognizing that it is not that way. I got attached to the longevity and not recognizing the experience, the processes of the experience, the process. In that process, all the things that I was looking to do over 3 years, a lot of it got done in 6 or 8 months. I didn't realize how intense I am, how overwhelming I am, how intense and enthusiastic. All of that gives way for speed in which others would be able to respond in a different way than I had I'd envisioned. And I say all that to say, I thank you very much, because all of those ideas of, quote, failure did move through my head, but I am now confirmed and convinced that it was a seasonal and it was for my own good. They benefited from all that I did for certain, but I know that it was all about me being able to move. And yeah, no, don't judge me.
No judgment.
Don't judge me. I just wanted to be out of Richmond. I know that there was a better way to do that now.
Yeah, there are some different ways.
It could have been a bunch of ways, but I wanted out of Richmond. I am out of Richmond, and now I am on to that adventure that I wanted. Where else did I want to be? And in the process, in the meantime, I was able to have this glorious experience with these young people and this family. However, I know that the whole process was about me getting out of Richmond.
Mm-hmm.
And
successful because you're out of Richmond.
Exactly. But I hadn't identified all of the intent in the personal, immediate intent. That's what I failed. And your insight and your talk gave me some of that clarity. So I just wanted to say thank you very much.
We celebrate you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, come on in.
Hi there. Hello, everybody. I loved your talk. And what I got out of it was Ernest Holmes' belief that the only thing that bounds us is our belief in ourselves. And if you have confidence in yourself, you're not bound because you have a belief system within you that serves you. So no matter what you're doing in life, look for a belief system that is connected with spirit, that is there to serve you. And so when we use the word failure, which has been introduced into our vocabulary at very young ages, we are determined not to be that, owning the possibility that it could be part of our life too. And that's bad training, I think. Really, we should all believe that in the confidence in ourselves that should have been given to us at a very early age, and somehow that may or may not have occurred. So our only job here with that contamination, I call it a contamination, is to believe in ourselves, that we are divine spirits. We have the power to overcome our own bounded beliefs. And we are always supported by spirit if we just ask for that help. Just say, Spirit, I'm not feeling too confident today. Can you give me some of that good old confidence that is there and I can't find it today, please? And it will come. But we must get in touch with where we're coming from. Are we coming from love for and trust for our spirit self, or are we coming from a sense of failure, which does not exist? It's only an opinion word. It's only an
Right.
opinion. It has no validity. It's just somebody's opinion. And we don't have to live that way. We can live as a success all of the time, 24/7. I am a success. You are a success. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. And just to top that, I just want to remind you all, there's no spiritual prototype for failure.
Mm.
That's wonderful.
Ooh, ooh, ooh,
Yeah.
yeah. Delicious.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Hey, your hand is up.
Yeah, greetings to you all. It is a very good time having to be in this gathering every time, just like when your gas is off from your system, you just come and regas yourself, yeah, every time. And it goes a long way. You covered miles, you know.
Mhm.
What I want to add in, you have spoken wonderfully well, and then I pray God Almighty will continue to renew your strength every day, because in this kind of gathering, the only thing that we always need, it is for us to continue to carry our instruments along. There is always an instrument that we need to work with when we are in some dark time, which is very, very compulsory. And you know, I always tell people, the most greatest place that the devil always look for or trying to work with, which is our mind, our minds. Whatever anything you put in your mind every time matters. Even though if you believe, I believe failure is part of success, because they are interwoven. There is no way you can leave failure and without success. Success is failure. Failure is success. And when you are successful, does not really mean that you cannot still fail. So continuity about failure gives you more confidence. Just like sometimes when I was kind of a repair on a car, and I found out that the engine is malfunctioning. There are so many things that can cause malfunctioning. It can be sensor, it can be spark plugs, can be injector. Just like the same way our life is, we need to work towards a perfect malfunctioning system, the system that works with our brain boss, which is ECU. So we should continue looking at that part every time, which is what kind of instrument are you using in when situations come in that matters. So thank you so much. I'm thanking you so much, because I know that you are doing a great job, and God will continue to bless everyone here in Jesus' name. Amen.
Yeah, thank you so much. So what it brought to my mind is our own spiritual GPS system. So just, think about your GPS in your car. You can put in the destination, and then guess what happens? You get the pop-up, you're going to be delayed 15 minutes, or we can reroute you, and you get the options for the route. So it's the same thing. It's our internal GPS system. When we are in touch with spirit, then when we get to that obstacle, that roadblock, that seeming failure, whatever it is, we can readjust. We can go in a different direction entirely, take another route, right? We can change the destination even if we want to.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Thanks for the metaphor.
I am going to be listening to this. Thank you. I'm going to be listening to this recording a few times.
Okay.
Yes. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you so much. Deep, wonderful, and full of empowerment, full of stuff that we can revisit over and over. So I know we could go on and on. Reverend Michele, wonderful. Thank you for that beautiful, enlightening message today. So, and for everyone who made their contribution to this, making it a rich discussion.